Hey kids, you doing anything on Saturday, March 29th? You want to do something fun and awesome? Then get ready to cause some mayhem with these!
Yeah!
It's the Nerf War of Alamo Mesa, hosted by the Southwest Animation and Gaming Expo and Black Rim Ops. Join us on Saturday, March 29th at 3 p.m. at San Pedro Park across from San Antonio College. Bring your own gun! Kids' tickets are still $0. And by kids, we mean everybody! Our well-seasoned war leaders will keep you so safe it'll blow your mind! It's fun! And safe! Extremely safe! With all kinds of different Nerf War games such as Standard War, Mexican Standoff, Free-for-All, Explosion Dodging! Well, maybe not explosion dodging, but lots more! Come out and you'll also get the chance for discounted entry to the first ever 2015 Southwest Animation and Gaming Expo! March 29th, absolutely free! Nerf War of Alamo Mesa! Be there or don't show up!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
Good to see you guys again for the second episode of Season 3.
Or episode 48 if you're counting.
I'm so glad we're doing all these episodes live now. I'm actually really happy about it.
Yep. But you have a secret to your confidence. You have a cat in your lap.
You know, I was really kind of hoping nobody would find out, because, you know, she's actually kind of off screen, and, you know, you ruined everything.
You can totally see her tail on your stomach.
Fine. There. Are you happy, cat? Are you happy? Hey, why don't you tell me about what's going on, Josh?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Today was the first day of spring, and it was actually a decent temperature outside.
What does that mean to a nerd?
Oh. I don't know.
Okay, so clearly...
Clearly that hasn't changed in 2 seasons. We still can't come up with good banter at the very top of the show.
I suppose we should go ahead and talk about the actual topics we're going to be talking about, since clearly we can't think of anything else.
Well, before we talk about that, shouldn't we clear up just a little bit of that commercial we just showed everybody?
Oh, what do we have to clear up? I mean, I think it's plainly... Okay, bye, cat. I think it's pretty plainly obvious what that was. It was an advertisement for our Nerf event next weekend.
Hope you guys liked it. I know not a lot of you will have the chance to come out there, but if you have the chance, please do come. It'll be great. It'll be epic and explosive as much as can actually be made with, you know, foam darts.
Foam darts that haven't been modded out of unmodded weapons.
Yes.
So... that having been said, I guess we will go ahead and talk about what we were talking about tonight, and if you follow us on Twitter, then you already know. But, I'm going to be talking to you guys about what just got announced today.
Just a couple of hours ago.
Really, just a few hours ago, that there's going to be a live-action Gem movie, as in Gem and the Holograms from the 1980s, as directed by the guy who's directed G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Yep, that's the guy.
I don't know how I feel. We'll talk about that more later.
The other thing we're going to talk about is a little bit earlier in the week, after so many years of practically begging Disney and Pixar, they finally announced that they're going ahead with a sequel to The Incredibles, and it's about time.
I know, right?
And so we're going to be gushing about that just a little bit, not too much.
And then what probably will not amount to quite as much gushing, we'll be talking about the fact that Ghostbusters 3 for some reason is still a thing.
It's still a very loaded and heavy topic at the moment, but we'll still kind of try and get through it because there is a lot to be taken into account here. Before we do that, we had a slight follow-up on one or two little household items. You've heard us talk before about Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Godzilla at length. We're probably not going to do any more full stories about those since we're getting really close to those movies actually being released. So anything you see now is a little too close to change your opinion. Whether or not you're going or not going, you probably already decided. But just for that little bit, we got a little bit of extra footage. An international trailer was released for Godzilla just a few days ago, showing a little bit more footage from the front, a little bit more of the destruction that's going to happen in this movie. Still very much in keeping with the tone of the original 1954 movie. I am very much looking forward to that. We can say for certain that, based off an interview with the director Gareth Edwards, he did confirm that this Godzilla is radioactive. You can't get close to him without getting, radiation sickness, and he will have his atomic breath.
All right, those are the most important things next to him still being a suit, which I will miss, but so long as he still otherwise is Godzilla, then I'm all right with that.
Yes, they confirmed he will go up against the military as well as the other monsters. Of course, we knew that, but the balance will be there, that you'll actually care about the characters. And for me, that's something that, again, I keep saying this, was the focus in his previous movie Monsters, was that there was the focus on the characters, while at the same time you kind of had these monsters in the background. Here he's saying he's got a little bit more of the mix, but while you're still watching these cities get destroyed and these monsters going at it one-on-one, you'll actually care about the people who are getting affected by the buildings crumbling around them.
But I don't really care about the people to begin with. I just want to see monsters bash each other in the face.
That will be there.
Yeah, but that's all I want.
Well, he said as much in the interview. If that's what you're there for, you will get that.
Okay, good.
If you're reading a little more into it, like I would, there's something there for them too. Well, that's good. He's making a movie for not just one set of an audience.
He needs to make it only for me. Only ever for me. In my fan fiction universe, where monsters just fight monsters for no good reason.
So, just like Destroy All Monsters, then.
Yeah, why can't we have another Destroy All Monsters?
Well, we'll get to that. This is the reboot here. We're going to get to Destroy All Monsters. I'm hoping for more.
I actually am not nearly as pushy for it to be all monsters as I'm making it out to be, but
the other interesting thing to bring up in that interview was that they're not saying one way or another whether or not the word Godzilla will be uttered the whole movie, and I think that's understandable.
Why do you say that?
Well, because you think about the way they rationalized it in the 98 movie where they said, oh, it's some folk legend from Japan.
And then they got the name from some dude on a boat or something.
Yeah, Genre knows there with the flame. What did you see, old man? He's just there in trance. Gojira. Gojira. And then, of course, Harry Shearer's character mishears it and then pronounces it Godzilla. And then, that's for some reason where they start calling him Godzilla. But that's about on the same length of... it's kind of a throwaway sort of thing, but at least that explained why everybody called him that, as opposed to like in Man of Steel, where somewhere in the background they decided to call him Superman, and then everybody started calling him Superman halfway through the movie. Yeah, something like that.
Right.
I understand, if nobody's seen this thing before, they're not going to know what to call it.
That's true.
So I can respect that.
I would imagine somebody would name him something after a certain point.
After a while, yeah. And
I don't necessarily mean that everybody should know his name, but somebody should give him a name.
Well, at least, somewhere after the halfway point, at least three-fourths of the way through, they should at least be calling him something, like the creature or, something. But everybody watching will know, oh, well, that's Godzilla. And then the other thing we mentioned, of course, too, was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer, which is showing a lot more of the fight sequences and the villains, and kind of really giving away a lot of this movie, and that's got me a little bit worried.
All of the trailers have been very revealing, and then if you know anything about Spider-Man's comic history, you know exactly what's going to happen in this movie.
I mean, it's stuff that is as simple as what Gwen Stacy is wearing. Emma Stone's character in this movie, you kind of see what's coming and the way they're shooting certain things and not showing certain things. you kind of know what's coming for her. If not, ask a friend. They're definitely very much gearing up for these next movies coming up. What with Amazing Spider-Man 3 still to be directed by Mark Webb, and also they're working on expanding that universe and bringing out the Sinister Six, and also a Venom spin-off movie. They're really looking to make his world full of the villains that are in there, and I'm happy for that. And the younger nerd in me wants that, but I'm still a little bit skeptical as to whether or not they're going to execute it well.
Well, yeah, because it feels like they're just shoving everything. They're throwing in everything but the kitchen sink.
Well, see, that's the thing. Mark Webb was saying in an interview for that earlier this week that he didn't shy away from that. That he wanted to embrace it.
Yeah, but doesn't that seem like it would be too scattered an idea?
See, that's the problem, because I appreciate wanting to embrace that, but really, because we've got history to tell us, we don't want it to be like Spider-Man 3 from Sam Raimi, where it just was this mishmash of things and character motivations didn't make sense. Really, the writing fell through there.
I mean, I think you can still make characters have motivation that makes sense in this movie. It's just when you have so much stuff, are you going to be able to allot them all the appropriate amount of time for growth?
Yes, that is a very good argument, and hopefully he's saying they're doing that. He's saying there's a very good arc for Electro, there's a good arc for Harry Osborn, of course, for Peter and Gwen in this, and then whatever they do with Norman Osborn. It's already a full movie just there, not counting all these background characters and supposed Easter eggs that are going to be in there. But come this May when it comes out, it'll be something to see.
Right.
I mean, it's still. I will say this much though, but before we get into the next story, that the CG is looking a little bit better now than those first trailers. Like they're cleaning it up a little.
A little. They only have so much time to fix it though.
Yeah. I'll try and avoid seeing it in 3D, and maybe that'll help.
Yeah. Really, I'm still
to me
not...
anyway. CG looks more apparent to me in 3D in some movies.
I'm still really not on board with the 3D bandwagon for most movies. But then again, major motion pictures in 3D usually give me a headache, so...
That seems to be the case for a lot of movies. People going to the movies, they get this weird sort of motion sickness from 3D movies now.
Yeah, because it feels more real than real, and it makes me ill. I can't really explain it. Like, take, for example, going to Universal Studios, which is, I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, where we're going to be going in a few months, and we're going to be getting on rides where it's both a mix of 3D and motion. So you include the Spider-Man ride, for example. Those rides in particular, because you're mixing the two, had a tendency to almost nearly knock me out for the whole day. Gonna need some Dramamine for that day.
Well, you can have your Dramamine. I will be running on pure adrenaline going into that ride.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I really enjoy those rides. What I don't enjoy is the feeling that I get after them. Like, I'm gonna have to puke the whole rest of the day and then sleep it off. I don't know what happened to me. That didn't used to be me. I used to be able to get on the Gravitron, you know, the spinning UFO thing that comes around to...
And it pushes you up against the
wall.
and
then you go
sliding up.
And you're going, and you're stuck to the wall. I used to be able to do that like 5 or 6 times in a row, and then I got old and I got fat. And now I can't... I get sick.
Well, you're not old and you're not fat.
Well, I'm not skinny, so...
Well, I didn't say that either.
Okay.
I'm being realistic. I'm being realistic.
I'm in agreement about something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we should actually start talking about our real news stories now.
Yeah, because talking about that other stuff, you know, how sick you get is outrageous.
We gotta
totally
teach you,
outrageous.
It's truly outrageous.
Truly outrageous.
We've really got to teach you how to segue. So...
You can rent one downtown, I think. Segways and...
I got this animated GIF off of the official Gem the Movie website. The Gem the Movie website, by the way, seems to be a Tumblr page where they just got a gemthemovie.com web address and slapped it onto their Tumblr page. Which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that's the thing about this movie that they just announced today.
Yeah, let's take it from the top. One, this movie's getting apparently made.
Yeah, but you didn't know that. Because it is, for some reason, even though it's, like, really... it has a fan base, but it was always kind of like out there on the outer rims of fandom.
Because of that, for people who aren't familiar, give us a little bit of background on what Gem is.
Well, this is Gem, for one thing, my DVD copy that somebody very once nicely gifted me. You know, a lot of people have been asking me to talk about this movie for a long time, so much so that somebody sent me a bootleg copy of the series several years ago, and then eventually somebody sent me this copy. So I guess now's about the time to review it, too, after we're done with all this. So, Gem, started in 1985, was an animated series, animated by the same group of people who did G.I. Joe and Transformers. It was all the same American team that helmed the development, and Toei, as you might know them for their anime now, like One Piece, for example, is an example of a Toei animated series. They animated all three of those series, including Gem. And so you've got super ridiculous marketing for toys, much like those other two series, except this clearly was for girls. You got like these Barbie doll, as like they're almost carbon copy Barbie doll figures, and it was especially like accessorize.
Were those a Mattel release?
No, they were Hasbro.
Oh,
it was Hasbro's competition with Mattel.
So Mattel had Barbie, and this was their answer.
Again, like, all three of these series, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Gem, they were all this big core Hasbro toy marketing idea. And so Gem is this girl, Jerica, whose father dies and leaves her half of a music business and, for some reason, a house for orphaned girls. And then he also leaves her these earrings that project holographic images, and then he left her a secret base with a jazzercise demon in it.
Jazzercise ghost, as you said.
The jazzercise ghost in the computer named Synergy, who also is a hologram, and she makes all these holographic projections, and her dad also left her a car and a whole bunch of musical instruments, and then he's like, hey, go wild, kids. And then they're like, yeah, now we're gonna go be a rock star band, and we're gonna fight the evil other half of the other corporation, which includes a guy named Eric who fronts, who helps manages the other band, the evil band, the Misfits, who for some reason do all kinds of illegal things and they never get sued or arrested. And that is Gem and the Holograms, and apparently it's truly outrageous. And
truly outrageous.
So now there's gonna be a movie, and it's again the director is John M. Chu, who was the director of G.I. Joe Retaliation,
who also directed the tour video of Justin Bieber Never Say Never.
Well, at least that's music.
So to speak, but you also have to kind of put air quotes on the way they're making this movie. Now, you think about anything that's been adapted up until now, you know, Transformers, RoboCop, you know, anything that was ever something else being brought to the big screen. You know, you run through writers, you run through, you know, your production team, you do everything you can, and then you start working on it, you build up your props, your sets, you do your casting through the big studios and your agents, and then you go shoot the thing, put it in post, and then boom, there's your movie. That's the normal, more or less way you do it in Hollywood. For some reason, John Chu over here is deciding to do it a little bit differently by going a very kind of Kickstarter route with the way they're putting this together.
Except without the money, mind you.
What they're asking for is not money, they're asking for basically resources. They're looking for people to contribute music, designs, for people to submit online casting to be part of this movie, and they said guys or girls.
Yeah, and they're looking for all ages, all ethnicities. Like, that's the one thing that makes me the most curious. Now, granted, because they still have creative control, they can probably still pick, like, the worst ideas out of the bunch. And the scary thing is that they're like, yeah, we're doing a modern reimagination of... And I'm like, whoa.
See, yeah, that's the word you want to listen for whenever anybody's talking about doing anything. Reimagining. Because that's the same line that they gave us with this latest RoboCop. You know, it's a reimagining. And for the most part, yeah, they're still somewhere in there, the core of what RoboCop is, but you see how much they've changed to the way he works, the way he operates, the way he looks, things like that. So when you say that, be ready for a lot of things to get changed.
Right, because what I'm thinking here is Gem is such there's a reason why its fan base is only so big and only on the cusp of like people's collective consciousness right now, and that's because it so shoehorned itself as being an 80s creation.
Yeah, it ran from 85 to 88, so that's right there in the center.
And like what I'm saying is that because of it almost seems like it's an 80s parody of itself right in the 80s. Like, it drove home so hard. This is what right this second.
Mm-hmm.
This is what stuff looks like and sounds like right now. And to reimagine it, to update it to be modern, like, I cannot imagine Gem without being completely 80s hairband and
right, exactly.
Layers upon layers of accessories and stupid crap like that. Like, the next thing I can possibly imagine is that we have a modern Gem that looks like Lady Gaga and Katy Perry.
See, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, because if this was being made through official studio channels, I could very easily see either one of them playing her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or even very simply have Katy Perry play Jerrica and Gem, and have Lady Gaga be the head of the other band, the Misfits. Like, that's the movie right there. You could have sold that to a studio, and that would have made, $100 million opening weekend.
Right.
So why is it that they're deciding to do it this way?
I mean, that's a good question. Maybe because they want to make people feel like, oh, this isn't going to be so bad. We get so mad over all these other 80s reboots over things, but maybe if we think we have some partial control over it, then maybe we won't have people so mad at us.
Well, see, but here's the thing that always bugs me about these open casting calls, having, been through a couple of them. At the end of the day, the main roles are going to go to people who are already usually somewhat in the business, unless in certain cases it calls for a kid role, then yeah, they're more likely to go with a newcomer kid.
Uh-huh.
But if it's a role that's a certain age or higher, yeah, they're more than likely going to go with the person who already has a resume.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, that's not saying I'm discouraging anybody from trying. I'm just saying, to anybody auditioning, be wary. Don't get your hopes up too high.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, I saw a number of people worrying and complaining, well, I see a bunch of men working on this movie project. Considering this is a movie and a series for girls, that could be a problem. This was created specifically by a woman by the name of Christy Marks. That was the original person who created Gem and the Holograms to begin with. Like, this was full of female producers who understood what girls wanted and needed.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the majority of the cast are female within the series. There's only, the smallest handful of male roles that are anywhere in the foreground.
Now, see, even from your crayon recreation, which I think pretty much captured everything about the series in a nutshell, there's not really much of an emphasis on guys. So why are they saying they're casting for everybody, either gender, all races, all ages? Like, why?
Well,
are they looking for backup dancers or what?
Probably. Now, there are some other bands that introduce themselves throughout the course of the cartoon, and one of them is an all-male band that they introduced from another country, so that could be one. Rio, the love interest of Jerrica/Gem, I don't even know what ethnicity, he's something of dark complexion, and I forget even what his last name is.
Well, dark complexion, and his name is Rio. I'm guessing he's from Switzerland. I mean, obviously.
You're such a pain in the butt, you know that? You're such a pain in the butt.
Well, even then, you bring up the idea of...
He also has purple hair, so I have no idea where he comes from, so that's...
Japan?
He's not a Japanese man. That is not a Japanese name.
Well, see, here's the thing I'm thinking about it, too. Like, even with all these other bands, you could get actual musical artists to cameo as these other bands. I mean, that's very easy to do. Heck, they did that in the last Blues Brothers movie.
I'm just
not to say that that was a good movie, but, you know, you get the idea.
I'm just sitting here wondering, like, how much bank has Hasbro been making lately, right? Like,
well, you gotta...
Transformers. G.I. Joe to some extent. I don't think it's banked as hard as Transformers has, but it's not exactly doing poorly or anything.
And keep in mind, Battleship actually made money.
Oh my god.
I know, weird, right?
Oh my god.
And I watched that thing.
Oh, why? Oh,
I was hoping it would put me to sleep. I didn't pay to watch it. It was on, like, Encore Movies or something late at night, and I was like... You know what? Fine.
And let's not forget that, really, My Little Pony is nothing to laugh at. I mean...
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it's funny, but, you know, yeah, financially it's nothing to laugh at. Yeah, it's still making plenty of bank.
Oh, yeah. So, I would imagine that whatever happens with this movie, it's gonna find its audience, and Hasbro is just going to be rolling, laughing, in piles of money. Like,
this is the only thing I'm thinking about,
Oh,
though.
man! I hope they make Nerf blasters out of this for the Rebel line! Oh, my God!
What, like, gem tie-in blasters? Like, she's the face...
They already do it for the Avengers! They've done it for G.I. Joe!
They're doing it for Captain America.
Tie-in Nerf blasters! It's all Hasbro anyway!
You do have a point.
Oh, my God!
That's a very valid point.
Oh, my God!
But, see, here's the...
Somebody make a Nerf keytar and push a button and it comes out of the neck.
I would fire that. I would
fire that.
I would use that Nerf blaster if it was in the shape of a keytar. But see, here's the thing I'm thinking about, though. Now, you're saying, like, very much so that this core fan base of Gem isn't that incredibly big, right?
Not nearly
as much in comparison to some of these other properties that we brought up.
Right, and probably not even as much as, say, Sailor Moon, which was a arguably, like, girls rallied behind this girly
and still
thing,
do to this day. But here's the thing I'm thinking about. Is this for that one fan, or those few fans out there that were holding on to hope that they were going to do this? And not only do they announce this movie today, they also announce that they want help from the fans. And you see these few girls out there on the internet like, my time has come, and they're ready, and they're going to have these submissions out there within the next day, 2 days.
And I just wonder if they end up picking up these fan submissions, like, I imagine these people aren't going to get paid for their work, and will that be sad?
Well, not necessarily. This isn't a case where they'll go ahead and... Well, I guess it all depends, because if they're having to sign any sort of agreement, any sort of online agreement to give up the rights to the thing you put out there, then that could be a problem. That's specifically the reason why I never participated in that sci-fi show, Who Wants to Be a Superhero, because I didn't want my ideas, you know, taken from me, and I never got any credit for it.
Right.
So, yeah, you do have to be wary of that as well. Which is why, as a whole, for this project, I'm happy for the fans that they're getting this. I'm just worried about the way in which they're doing it.
I get you. I'm really curious to see what happens. That's all I'm gonna say.
Now, here's the question I think some people might be wondering. Are you going to try and audition or submit anything towards this?
Only if people think I should. Maybe just for the sake of, alright guys, let's see how far this gets. Not at all.
I don't know, the last time you tried to do something like that, you made it pretty far.
Yeah, but that was because that was based on votes. This is not based on votes.
Couldn't hurt.
I would probably see myself ending up in, like, probably more on the Misfits side of things.
Is that such a bad thing?
Honestly, no, their songs are better.
Well, there you go. Okay, alright.
What, are you telling me that's what I should do? Are you telling me I should?
I'm not telling you that's what you should do. I'm saying I'm waiting.
Waiting for what?
To see what you do. Alright, but that is best left for time after the show. Okay, so we'll move on to our second story. One that I am personally very, very adamantly happy about.
I didn't know that was going to be our second one. I thought it was going to be our third one. Okay, there it is.
The Incredibles are coming back.
Yes.
So long have I been waiting. I've been waiting, think about this, 10 years now just about, for a sequel to this movie. Other fans have been waiting for this movie for so long. Because you go back to the original, movie, The Incredibles, comes out, 10 years ago. That movie, for its time, and even now, compared to other movies like it, other superhero movies, told a very solid story about a family that had all these, quirks about them, emotionally, how they related to each other, but at the same time, they also have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
The Incredibles is the Fantastic Four movie Fox wishes they made twice.
Right?
And you ask anybody, they'll tell you that. Because for the most part, The Incredibles, you look at them, Violet, Mr. Incredible, Mrs. Incredible, why can't I remember the kid's name?
He's a speedy little kid. Whatever.
Dash, and of course the baby. They're basically, with the exception of Dash, they're the Fantastic Four plus the Flash out of Dash, and then their baby is just a Super Skrull, because he's got all their powers, more or less.
I guess. I just thought he was wigging out, and I didn't know what he was doing, so...
Well, I thought that was a nice nod to, like, oh, hey, there you go, I see that.
That's the thing, like, I want to know how much time has passed, because I want to know if that baby gets to do something.
Well, see, that's an important thing to take into account now. We take things into perspective here. Dash and Violet, they're just kids. The baby's just a baby, of course. But the good thing about sequels, as far as that's concerned, big screen, we actually thought about these sequels, time has passed. You think about Toy Story. The amount of times that passed between 1 and 2 were about right for as long as it took. And then from 2 to 3, the actual amount of time had passed, like, yeah, Andy's going off to college. That makes sense. He would be that age.
That makes sense, yeah.
So I fully believe, at the least, they'll be further along in school, probably seeing how they relate along those routes. The thing that worries me about that aspect is I don't want it to feel a little too much like the school scenes in, say, Amazing Spider-Man, or hell, even Kick-Ass or Kick-Ass 2, where, we're trying to hide our powers, and they take up too much of the plot doing that. Like, oh, I'm trying to fit in. And the other bigger thing to think about, too, is a villain. You need a villain, because we already dispatched with Syndrome in the last movie.
Well, if you treat this like any other... You treat this comic style. Comics can go on and on and on. That was the one thing about The Incredibles that... at first I didn't even want them to make a Toy Story 2 or 3, but then it turned out those were really good. But with The Incredibles, it's like, you're superheroes, you can do whatever the heck you want with it.
Right.
You can invent a new superhero, I don't even care. You can give them love interests, you can kill some people off, then you can bring them back from the dead, because you know what, that's what I expect out of superheroes, and so long as you tell it in a good way, then awesome.
Then is that to say that you think Syndrome is still alive?
I don't know about that. I almost don't know that I want them to reuse Syndrome.
Well, yeah, I fully believe it should be, a different villain. I don't know if it should be, like some people in the chat are saying, the Underminer who shows up at the very end of the movie. If you want, develop that character more, if you got a story for it, great. If not, I think they could use somebody new, somebody who really challenges them. Really, it's the same questions you would ask of any superhero movie that you're making a sequel to. Where are we going to take these characters? And again, depending on how much time has passed in between movies, that depends on what needs to be told in the story. Are we dealing with just barely adolescence out of Dash? Is Violet starting to think about boys? Is Bob, Mr. Incredible, is he going into retirement? Like what are we, or like actual retirement? He was already in superhero retirement. Things of that nature. Are they even going to have another kid by this point?
Oh, I hope not.
The family could have expanded even more.
3's enough. No.
You think 3 is enough?
Yeah, 3's enough.
I would say I wouldn't put it past him to give him one more kid.
I don't want him to, though. This is
It depends on how much time has passed. That could be very legitimate.
Yeah. I know I wouldn't want 4 kids. That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand.
You know what? She's got the rubbery body, so she can probably handle labor like nobody's business. She can pop out as many kids as she wants, I'm sure, and she just has to pretend that it hurts.
That was a bit more thought than I thought you would give to that, but okay.
I'm just saying I really don't see a need for a fourth kid.
Well,
you know what
there is a
much.
need for in this movie? More Frozone.
Always more Frozone. Why would you even think that I would think that we wouldn't want more Frozone?
There needs to be more Frozone, because for most people, he was the best part of the movie, and he only does so much. But again, it's Sam Jackson in a superhero movie. There's something about that magic he brings to it. Like, woman, where is my super suit? Like, people were quoting that. People still quote that.
Where is my super suit? Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing, and he only got so much superpower screen time.
Right. Another thing to think about, too, is, you know, they make mention of the other heroes in this universe, and really, yeah, the movie focuses on that family, the Pars, and, you know, Frozone. But are we going to see any more of these other heroes maybe come out of retirement, or, you know, some other people being inspired by them?
See, that would be cool. Like, clearly by the end of the movie, people are like, oh, we sure did need these heroes even though we shunted them off. And so I would imagine other superheroes would be like, hey, they're doing it again, and I've sat by and watched things happen because I'm not supposed to do anything. Well, I can do stuff now.
Right, which is why I'm saying they should be very careful that this doesn't turn into Kick-Ass 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you know, superheroes are back in, and, you know, now people are starting to come back out of hiding or start to be inspired. You know, you don't want to draw too many comparisons. You want it to be its own core thing.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, too, with, you know, heroes being forced into retirement, that's area that Watchmen is for.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the Incredibles. I think they want that focus to stay on the family, on the way they relate, and things like that.
Well, I'm sure even if they brought forth a whole bunch of other supers, they would not stray too far away from the family. I mean, that's the name of the movie, is their family name.
Yeah.
So I really don't think, even if they were to bring out all these other people with superpowers, I don't think they'd stray from this family as the focus of the movie.
Now, the only thing I think about is, and this was just something I thought as a kid when I was watching the movie. Well, not even really a kid at that point. I was in high school. You know, everybody had a name. You know, Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl / Mrs. Incredible.
What year did the movie come out?
2004.
You were graduated.
Oh yeah, that's right. You know, yeah, I was already a freshman in college. Yeah, my brother was. That's right. My brother was in high school. That's right. But, you know, Violet didn't actually have a superhero name, and I automatically thought, well, okay, they'll just call her Ultraviolet or something, since, you know, Ultraviolet, like making yourself, you know, invisible and force. You know, that made sense, didn't it?
Okay, fine.
Okay, just running that out there.
Okay.
But I don't know whether or not they would give Dash a different superhero name, so to speak, because, like, yeah, Dash is short for Dashel, you know, his full name, but I don't know, like, should they just still call him Dash, or try and give him some...
That would give away his identity, because
yeah, see, that's what I'm thinking about. So would they, you know, call him the... What would you call him? Without infringing on another fast person's...
I sort of don't even want to think about it. Like...
Well, I think for simple marketing, yeah, he'll still be referred to as Dash.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing that would work is, like, if at school he has to go by his full name, and then he hates it, that way he can use his his shortened name out while fighting crime.
Maybe. I don't know. I still think that would be too obvious, but, you know, it's a Disney universe, so maybe not nearly as obvious to the characters around him? I don't know about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that. You don't want it to be too hella obvious.
I also don't necessarily know that they need superhero names.
No, well, if they're out in public, you know, people are going to
they're probably gonna
want
to
to refer to them by something, like
Incredible Boy or something.
Okay, maybe, you know what, I would almost...
Incredible Girl, and then Mr. Incredible, and Mrs. Incredible, and then Baby Incredible.
Yeah, the chat here is recommending a couple right here. I like the sound of Sonic Boom.
Well, I like the sound of Sonic Boom too, but I just really like the song.
And then you get after me for the cheese I bring to the show.
Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom.
Okay. So, the other thing to keep in mind here is that the original was directed by Brad Bird, who is now currently working on Tomorrowland for Disney. They haven't confirmed whether or not he's coming back on the project. They just announced we're doing it. I think in order to keep that same feeling, he needs to come back and direct.
You think so?
I fully believe that. Because, there was... I don't know if I want to go as far as saying magic for it, but there's a certain charm that the original has to it. And at the same time, they're looking to re-release the original, give it another run in theaters with a 3D treatment.
Oh boy. I just don't think that's necessary unless the movie was originally intended to be in 3D.
I think it won't be so bad for this one.
I know when I watched Nightmare Before Christmas in theaters in 3D, the 3D was really noticeable that the movie was not made for 3D and that it was really superficial. It was kind of bad, in fact. So, I don't know. I mean, considering the characters are already are in a 3D modeled landscape, maybe it will work.
I don't think it would hurt that much.
Maybe
even because your mind is already used to the visuals as it is. Just adding that extra layer to it shouldn't hurt that much.
Maybe not. I don't know. I want you guys to notice we've been talking about Incredibles 2 a whole bunch, despite the fact that at that exact same time they also announced Cars 3. We don't talk about Cars 3.
I admit to having never seen any of the Cars movies, so I can't say anything one way or the other.
Well, I think it's even weaker than A Bug's Life. I think it's the weakest.
I actually like A Bug's Life.
Like A Bug's Life. I think it's the weakest of the Pixar movies. The first one specifically. I mean, the second one also, but really, it was clearly the most childish of all the Pixar movies. Clearly. I mean, that's not to say that Disney Pixar movies aren't for kids anyway.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was just kind of like, you know what? It's not very good. And the only reason why I paid any attention to the second one after the first one was because I had to, because I was on a flight, and that was the in-flight movie. And perfume had to be in it, and...
But Michael Caine was a talking car.
I don't care. I don't care. It was a Cars movie. And I don't even care if it was in Japan. Like, it wasn't good. But Incredibles, that's a good movie.
That was a good movie. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to the announcements on that. Whether or not we better freaking get the rest of the original cast back, But we're looking to see more of those announcements in the coming weeks.
Uh-huh.
So, moving on to our final story for the night. This one's going to be a little... We're going to have to dance around some parts a little bit, but we'll try and treat it with as much respect as we can. So, to start off with, they're looking to start shooting for Ghostbusters 3 as of early next year. Now, let's take a step back for a second. The idea of a third Ghostbusters movie has been around for... what, a good 20 years now?
It's been in development hell for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, down in development hell with the ghosts that were, sent from there. And, yeah, Ghostbusters... I think it's fair enough to say that, on average, Ghostbusters is a household name. If you ask somebody who you're going to call, they're going to say either Ghostbusters or someone else.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny when you think about it. This little idea that these couple of guys had, a few comedians, like, you know what, let's tell this movie about a couple of guys who catch ghosts and have it be a little bit funny, and then it grows into this huge media phenomenon.
Everyone wants to be a Ghostbuster. Everyone loves the tech that the Ghostbusters had. Like, I don't even think that these comedians had that in mind. Like, man, we're gonna create all this technology that people will be inspired by, kind of like Star Trek. Like, I don't think that crossed their minds at all to begin with.
Right. And you think about it, I still stand to this, and I think you agree with me, to current to date, I should say, we have a third movie, and it's Ghostbusters the video game that was released on, the past consoles, on Wii, on PS3, on 360. That was really the movie we deserved.
Right. I mean, I'm satisfied calling that Ghostbusters 3, quite honestly.
Yeah, because it was set a couple of years into the future, only in, 93, I think they said it was in-game. That's where it's set. They've got some new tech, and honestly, having gotten just about everybody save for Rick Moranis back, and, recasting for William Atherton's character, that was the movie right there. It felt like a movie. I mean, you brought in your new guy who you don't really get to see, but it's supposed to be you. And yeah, you're kind of revisiting these old ghosts, and it felt like a movie, and I loved it. I loved playing that game, but, that still wasn't going to be the same thing as an actual movie. And people have been batting that back and forth one way or the other. Well, is it going to be a complete reboot? Is it going to be a continuation? Are we going to do a mix of the two? Because you think about it, even in terms of the cartoons, we had the real Ghostbusters,
where they had continuing stories of those same characters, not the same voice actors, mind you, but the same characters at least.
And then in the mid-90s, we got Extreme Ghostbusters,
which actually I thought was a pretty decent series.
It. I'm surprised they've never given that a DVD release.
Lord, why not? Man, what's his wheelchair dude? It was funny.
Yeah.
Okay, he had a sense of humor about the fact that he couldn't use his legs.
Like that one time they crashed the Ecto-1, and he's like, I can't feel my legs! I can't feel my legs! Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it was a funny show there, but it still was a somewhat continuation, You had Egon as the mentor, and you're teaching these new, up-and-coming cadets about ghost catching, and then there was, like, an episode where the rest of the guys came back and did a little bit of ghost busting themselves.
Right.
And that was a great throwback. Well, funny enough, we can't exactly do the Egon mentoring thing, because unfortunately, as everybody knows, we sadly lost Harold Ramis just a few weeks ago. And of course, the comedy world, the film world was very saddened by his loss, because...
And this is especially why I feel like, can we really do a Ghostbusters 3? Like, it's been in development hell for so long.
And they had been talking about it for like the last year and a half, that we're kind of getting a script together, we're trying to get everybody on board, Dan and Bill and, everybody involved. And then this happens, and it's like...
I just sort of feel like, it doesn't really need to be made. If you guys couldn't pull it together over the last 20 years, is it really something that needs to be made?
Well, because people want more Ghostbusters in general, but I think a lot of people share the sentiment that they're not sure that now is the best time, especially now that we just lost one of the core members. Like, for me...
And it was more than just that he was the actor. He was a writer.
Yeah, he was one of the writers. He wrote for the dang video game along with everybody else. And... Egon, I think it's fair to say Egon, as far as film and television goes, was a nerd's nerd. He was who I latched on to when I was watching the real Ghostbusters, when I was watching the movie.
He was always my favorite character.
Yeah, always.
And before Harold Ramis passed away, you and I had this conversation where I said, man, I really need to find somebody who will help me make the real Ghostbusters Egon's, like, pale blue jumpsuit.
Yeah.
I really want his blue jumpsuit.
Just to go off on a tangent, to be fair, there's a group of Ghostbusters costumers and cosplayers out there that are kind of similar to the 501st with Star Wars, who do nothing but movie Ghostbusters costumes, but I haven't hardly seen anybody do the real Ghostbusters costumes.
Where you've got the dark brown and the deep blue, the light blue, and the tan.
Right.
Jumpsuits. I've never seen people do that variety, or do the Egon with, like, pink rimmed glasses and blonde pompadour hair.
Right. Now, and funny enough, even a few months before that, when we were going to go meet David Yost, we had this really long conversation in the car about what it would take to make a reboot.
And I again, still didn't even necessarily think it should be a reboot. I felt like it could still be done in the same universe, but our dudes are too old. We really can't do a movie like that anymore. If we go extreme Ghostbusters route, I think that's possible, and I think that's the idea they're talking about doing right now, where they've got new understudies, basically. Maybe starting their own franchise of Ghostbusters.
But I'm still not sure about it at this point, especially when you think about it. Ivan Reitman, who directed the original, has stepped down from directing position to just producing, because he said as much that after doing, after attending Harold Ramis's funeral, he decided he needed to take a step back. If you're having as much of the original crew have to step back like that, I am for more Ghostbusters. I just don't think we can tell any more stories with those characters, because I don't think anybody is even considering recasting Harold Ramis.
Right.
Not even for a second.
Would never want it.
See, this is why I would be more in line with, and hear me out on this, if we did something a little closer to what they did with this more recent Evil Dead movie, where it's not exactly the same movie, but we've got the same character types in there, we follow a similar pattern, and it more or less tells a similar story while being a little bit more modernized.
And it's apparently going to have some sort of tie-in to the original Evil Dead / Army of Darkness story.
Well, that's going off onto a whole nother story there, but yes, there's talk of that.
I just think that's kind of a smart idea, to have a similar enough movie with similar archetyped people, but it's still within the same universe. It's almost more of a spin-off than it is a reboot or a retelling or a recasting,
right,
what have you.
And I think that's a little bit more fair. Now, it still remains to be seen at this point currently now, after, of course, dealing with Harold Ramis's passing, how much involvement everyone else is going to be involved in, specifically Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson, of course. What are they going to do? What are they going to say? Are they going to want to be even harder involved, or do they want to step back? Because you think about it, even at the Oscars, Bill Murray had to get in that shout out to him when he was presenting the award up there. And you can see, these guys, they worked together. There was a lot of talk of the feud that Harold and Bill had, but still there's a respect there.
Oh yeah, I mean, just because you have a bit of a falling out doesn't mean that you completely disliked every experience you had with that person.
Right. Because that was, I guess you could say that was like at the height of their career.
Absolutely.
That's when they were rolling in it, you realize you
and
made
they were
this
working
thing
together a lot in those years.
So, I don't know. If it was me, I don't know if I would want to continue that hard, because, well, really, I guess that's the apropos thing to say. When you're working on something with somebody and then you lose them, they're no longer with us, it's hard to figure out how to continue with that person's work when they were so heavily involved.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And you start to wonder, should it even be made? But then you also have to think, well, what would that person want? Would that person want it to be continued even without them? I wonder if anyone has taken that into consideration with Harold Ramis. If perhaps, if he knew it was coming, I wonder if at any point he ever talked about it to anybody, like, do this or don't do this.
Yeah.
I would be really interested in knowing what he would have wanted.
Because, if I'm not mistaken, it was him, one other writer, and Dan who were the main writers for the original. So, I guess some of that weight would fall to Dan Aykroyd then to decide, well, how are we going to move forward with this? Because, Bill's not much of a writer. He's more of an actor now.
That's true.
And it'll be hard to see, even harder to see, how any sort of tribute will go out to him. Because if they make this, more than likely, it's a guarantee. It is a guarantee that if and when this movie gets made, the first thing you will see, or not even the first, a definite thing you will see, is in honor or in loving memory of Harold Ramis.
More than likely, yeah.
And as such, it depends on how they're going to treat it. If it's in the same universe, how do we treat that? Is Egon was it the result of a ghost in universe? Did he just pass on his own? How do you treat that while at the same time honoring his memory?
Right.
But at the same time, this is still a movie. You still have to tell a story that people want to watch. Yes, we are still very saddened by that because, it's still kind of recent. But at the same time, you still want to be able to entertain your audience, make sure people are still invested in this world that a lot of people have, grown accustomed to over these, going on 30 years now?
More than, huh?
Just about, yeah. By the time the movie comes out, over 30 years, you want to protect the franchise, but at the same time, you don't want to alienate the people that created it to begin with.
That's the truth. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So, as such, personally, I will put it out there that officially I want a reboot that doesn't have to worry about dishonoring Egon.
I personally do not want a reboot, but I would want a completely new cast of characters. I would not want to have to rely on the original cast due to loss of original cast and age of original cast. It would not be the same thing.
Right.
And we would not want to recast those characters. That would also be unfair.
Right. So,
Okay.
As far as that goes, who you going to call? It depends who they will call, and we'll find out as the story continues.
Oh my god.
What? That was I thought that was good.
Okay.
You gotta give me some credit. I'm
All right.
trying here.
Okay.
So,
and I think that's where we're going to wrap it up because we're coming to the end of our time here. Is there anything else that we wanted to tag before we wrapped everything up?
Just plug the Nerf event one more time.
Yeah, we'll mention one more time. Of course, if you were here at the beginning of the show, you saw that we had that promotion for the Nerf War of Alamo Mesa down at San Pedro Park on March 29th at 3 p.m. So if you're anywhere near the San Antonio area, and I know most of you here are not, but a couple of you might be, come on down. It's going to be fun. It's going to be free. You're going to be safe. Everybody's going to be safe. It's going to be so safe.
Extremely safe.
I can't even tell you how safe this thing is going to be, but it'll be fun safe.
For those of you sticking around, stay here in the chat and we'll go ahead and talk to you, even to ask us a few questions about the plot we came up with for our idea for a reboot, or just ask us a few questions. If not, you
for
can
about another half an hour after the show.
Give or take.
And again, if you're watching us on YouTube, get over here next week at 9 p.m. Central on Thursdays, and you get to be with us, and that's really cool. That's something you guys don't necessarily want to miss.
Because this is what the cool kids do.
We want to see you. We want to see you. So,
well, you can see us. We can't see you, but we can talk to you. But if you're not going to do that, you can always talk to us on Twitter. I'm at Josh Knight First.
And I'm at MarsGirlProd.
So until next week for episode 3, this has been Beyond the Black Rims, and we'll see you then.
Thank you very much, guys.